Okay, see the figure on the left side, Neres. I'm going to put my cursors and you're going to identify children. Those triangular structures outside, what are these? Tell me very quickly. Identify this. Outside, what are these? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Then speak out. What are these lateral appendages called? What do we call these lateral appendages? The ones which help in swimming?
Parapodia.
Parapodias. So if I divide this body of Neres into three parts, which I had already told you in the beginning, repetition of organs. See this figure. I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to cut it here. How many metameres am I going to get?
3.
3. And this phenomena is known as?
Metamerism.
Metamerism. Very good. This is known as metamerism. So parapodia is a feature of which kind of annelids?
Aquatic.
Aquatic.
The word annelida comes from the Latin word. Which is the word?
Annulus.
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 Very good. And what does annulus mean?
Little ring.
Little ring. So we have done 3 phylums very quickly. The first one was
Platyhelminthes.
Platyhelminthes, also commonly called as?
Flatworms.
Flatworm.
The second one was?
Aschelminthes.
Yes, commonly called as?
Roundworm.
Roundworms.
Third ones we did was, okay. Before I go ahead, I would like to show you this one. Please see this one. What is its name?
Hirudinaria.
Hirudinaria.
Please pronounce. I want everybody to pronounce this word. What is it?
Hirudinaria.
Okay. It is,
Hirudinaria.
why I want to discuss this. This is very interesting one. Hirudinaria is very interesting. It is known as the blood sucking leech. Okay. They have suckers. Actually, these ones, they have suckers. What do these suckers do? They connect to the host. And once they get attached, okay, they use a combination of mucus to suck blood. So what do we also call them as?
Blood sucking leech.
Blood sucking. Remember that all leeches, beta, are not blood suckers. Okay? It is not that we assume that all the leeches are blood suckers. All of them are not blood suckers. It's normally very few species that are having this tendency. One is on your screen. Can we have the name very quickly of bloodsucker?
Hirudinaria.
Hirudinaria.
Leech, I would also like to mention something for you people, beta. Leech is one very interesting thing which is not mentioned in this book, but I would certainly like to discuss with you. Leeches are very interesting. Okay. One is, you know, that they have segmented body. But one thing which I would like to mention over here is that they have 32 brains. The most interesting feature in them is they have how many brains?
32.
32.
Now what happens is normally there are 32 segments in leeches and each segment has its own ganglia. If you see, supposing I take these segments over here, roughly around 32. So each segment is going to have its own ganglia controlling each segment. Each segment is working independently. And that is why we generally say that leeches have approximately how many brains?
32 brains.
32.
32 brains.
It is a general statement which is said that leeches have 32 brains. We just talked about metamerism. What did we talk about? Metamerism. You remember we just discussed about metamerism? See, say 32 brains, it does not exactly mean that it has 32 brains. Basically, it has body segments. Annelids, you know, they have body segments. Normally, what happens is when we talk about internal segmentation, the body of a leech is divided into 32 parts and each has its own brain. That is why we generally say that there are around how many brains?
32.
Each segment has its own ganglia, and the ganglia of one segment is connected to the adjacent segment wala ganglion. So precisely we cannot say it has 32 brains, but for sure you can say a single brain which will exist in 32 parts throughout the body. We had just done about metamerism, that is repetition of organs. We had done about this word metamerism. So which is the organ which is being repeated over here?
Ganglion.
Ganglia, that is the presence of brain over here. When I discussed to explain this metamerism, I had talked about an excretory pore. But here we are talking about the ganglia, we are talking about the brain. If I say ganglia, beta ganglia कुछ नहीं होते, oval shaped structures होते हैं जिनमें neurons होते हैं, बस आप इतना समझ लो. Okay, they are like relay stations. They contain special cells. Ganglia are oval shaped cells and they act like neurons basically. So one segment वाला दूसरे से connected, दूसरा तीसरे से connected. तो जैसे आपका एक long nerve cell बन जाता है, ऐसे ही lot of ganglias connect करके एक proper nerve system kind of a formation is there in annelids. Annelids are very, very interesting creatures. So we have done about, we were doing nephridia. This one, parapodia we had done, nephridia. Neural system consists of paired ganglia connected by lateral nerves to a double ventral nerve cord. Double ventral nerve cord. I think I had done nerve cord with you. What do you mean by double ventral nerve cord? You can break the word and guess out.
Ma'am, which have two nerve cords.
And ventral means? What does ventral?
Front
Lower front.
Okay. And double ventral nerve cord obviously would mean what, beta? The ventral nerve cord, dekho, normally what happens is, we are talking about the double ventral nerve cord. One is connected to the brain and the double row of ganglia. This is also connected to the next segment. So this kind of a nerve cord is what we call as a double ventral nerve cord. What is the function of a nerve cord?
to transmit neural signals.
Yes, if you see, it is a part of a nervous system only. So we have two nerve cords over here. They are very, very characteristic, very, very interesting creatures, annelids beta. They're very different from the other phylums that you've just done. They are very, very interesting ones. Then we talked about Nereis is an aquatic form. It is dioecious, but earthworms and leeches are monoecious. What is the difference between dioecious? If both the sexes are present, just now we had done, then they're known as dioecious. So they could be dioecious, they could be monoecious. And reproduction, which mode of reproduction is there, sexual or asexual?
Sexual.
Okay. See, when I talk about Nereis, the most important feature is the presence of these parapodias. And when I talk about Hirudinaria, the most important feature is that it is known as, which leech is this?
Blood-sucking leech.
Yes, this is the blood-sucking leech. Now we move on to very, very sweet creatures. Very, very nice, simple creatures. They're not that deadly as what we did, blood-sucking ones. This is the phylum is Arthropoda. This is the largest phylum of Animalia. This includes insects. Okay, so whenever we use the word Arthropoda, we're talking about insect. The most important feature of Arthropodas is that they're the largest phylum. Over 2/3 of all the species on the earth are arthropods. 2/3, all species that you find on the earth of animals, 2/3 are arthropods only. They have an organ system of level organization. Now we are not talking about organ system. We are not talking about organ level. Which level have we reached now?
Organ system level.
Good. So we've reached the highest level of organization, that is organ system level. They're bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastically segmented in coelomate animals. The body of arthropods is covered by chitinous exoskeleton. That means the exoskeleton is made up of what substance? Chitin.
Chitin.
The body consists of, now this is interesting, we basically can divide the body into three parts: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They have joined appendages. If we break this word arthropoda, let's break this word arthropoda, beta. Arthro means joint and poda means appendages. That is why, because they have joined appendages, we call them as arthropoda. The respiratory organs can be gills, they can be book gills, book lungs, or tracheal system. What are book gills? Gills, everybody knows. I hope everybody knows about gills now. Gills are a mode of respiration in which animals?
Fish.
Yes. And if the gills are flap-like structures, okay, they are flap-like structures and gaseous exchange is taking place with them, then very thin membranes, and they have a very thin membrane. बेटा इसको आप ऐसे समझो जैसे बुक में पेजेस होते हैं, आप ऐसे इमेजिन करो. There is a gill which is made up of 100 thin membranes, very thin 100 membranes. Supposing you imagine a book जिसमें 100 pages हैं, ठीक है? Similarly, this gill is a flap. This gill, I'm talking about the modification. I'm explaining to you a book gill क्या होता है. See, book gill is gills in the shape of flaps, and each flap has around 100 thin membranes. Those thin membranes can be compared to a page. So, वो पूरा जो book है, that is what we call as, what are you going to call these gills as? Book gills. What do you call them as?
Book gills.
Okay. Normally gills, they are thin structures, small structures, but here these gills are a little special. How they are special, beta? They are flap-like structures. And each flap has about 100 very thin membranes. So अगर हम लोग बोले तो हम उन those thin membranes को किससे compare कर सकते हैं? Pages of a book. Okay? So that is why such kind of a gills, they are known as book gills. Clear everybody? What are these gills called as? Book gills. There is another word which you can see that is written book lungs. Again, book lung kuch nahi hai. It's a respiratory organ only used for exchange of gases. You will find them. Okay. But the main question is, why are these lungs called as book lungs? Again, the same reason, beta. They have plates stacked over one another. You know what is stacking? एक के ऊपर एक कोई चीज रख देते हैं. Then this is what we call as a stack. There we had membranes. 100 membranes. Here we have plates, about so many plates stacked over one another. So these plates look like the pages of a book. That is why these lungs are known as, what are they called as? Book lungs. If you see the upper part of the abdomen, हमें white color के patches दिखते हैं, which are actually book lungs. So can you imagine book gills and book lungs?
Yes.
Yes,
ma'am.
Beta, book gills contain about 100 very thin membranes. So it looks as if there is a book. ऊपर का gill, मतलब ऊपर का flap हटाएंगे, so you'll get 100 membranes. जैसे कि आप cover खोलेंगे तो अंदर 100 pages मिलेंगे. Similarly, when I say book lungs, membranes नहीं है. However, you have plates stacked over one another. So we have these two words for you, interesting words coming up in arthropoda. The most important thing about arthropoda is that they are the largest in number. Number two, they have joint appendages. Number three, the respiration is by gills, book lungs, or trachea. The circulatory system is open type. The sensory organs like antenna, eyes, statocyst, or balance organs are present. Now we are talking about sensory organs like antenna. Can you see the pictures on the right side? Some examples of arthropoda. Can you see antenna in any one of these?
Yes, ma'am.
कौन सा वाला बेटा?
Ma'am, butterfly, loctus.
Okay. Basically, what is the function of these antennas? What is the function of these antennas? Beta, they are sensory organs, touch, smell, and sometimes even some insects can hear. So the three main senses which we associate with antenna are touching, स्मेलिंग एंड इवन हियरिंग। वो किसी चीज से टच कर जाते हैं, वो इमीडिएटली मुड़ जाते हैं। इंसेक्ट्स आपने देखा होगा, आप सामने कोई बुक या कोई चीज रख दो, जैसे ही वो उसे टच करेंगे दे चेंज द डायरेक्शन बिकॉज दे हैव अ सेंस ऑफ टच, and that is because of the presence of these antennas only. Antennas are nothing, they are also segmented appendages only जो mouth part से connected होते हैं. They basically help in touch and smell. However, in some cases, they also help in hearing. They also help in hearing. So we all know about sensory organs like antenna, eyes, statocysts or balance organs. Look at this word, statocysts or balance organs. Have you heard this word earlier? I don't think आपने सुना होगा statocysts. They are balance organs. So balance organs basically must be helping in what? Basically, you will find them in invertebrates. They help in balance. Main function of statocysts was they help in balancing. Orientation. जब आप डायरेक्शन चेंज करते हो बेटा, that is what we call as orientation. So orientation के टाइम पे बैलेंस नहीं बिगड़े, so वो बैलेंस मेंटेन करने के लिए we have these special structures which are known as statocysts. Even at times when they are swimming in water, पानी में अगर आ जाते हैं, they fall down in water, they're still able to balance themselves. That is because of which structures? Statocysts. So let me read the sentence for you again very carefully. See this. The body consists of head, thorax, abdomen. They have joint appendages. Respiratory organs are gills, book lungs, tracheal system. Circulatory system is of open type. Sensory organs like antenna, eyes, statocyst or balance organs are present. So balance organs mainly will be having a very important role when it is orientation, मतलब वो direction change कर रहे हैं, या फिर when they are trying to swim. Excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules. They are mostly dioecious. Fertilization is usually internal and they are mostly oviparous. What is oviparous? What is oviparous? Yes. Beta, oviparous, viviparous, everybody knows. I know that you know, but you people don't want to speak out. Okay? अच्छा, there is a word Malpighian tubules. इसको भी एक बार जल्दी से समझ लेते हैं. Malpighian tubules are very thin tubes बेटा, ठीक है? They are very thin tubes. Alimentary canal के पीछे वाले side में they are present, and they have layer of cells connected to the alimentary canal. So excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules, tube-like structures connected to the alimentary canal. They are dioecious. What do you mean by dioecious? Sexes are separate or not?
Separate.
Separate.
And development may be direct. The baby is born as such, it resembles the parent, or they may have larval stages where we say it is indirect. See the examples. Please see the excuse me, please see the pictures. The first one is a locust, second is butterfly, scorpion and prawns. So let's talk about the important features. Number one, they are the largest phylum. Number two, they have joint appendages, that is why they are called arthropods. Circulatory system is open type. Respiration takes place through gills, book lungs. And then sensory organs, we may have antenna, we may have eyes, or we may have balance organs. What were those balance organs called as?
Statocyst.
Very good. Excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules. Fertilization is external or internal?
Internal.
Internal. Now we move on to mollusca. This is the second largest animal phylum. Which one was the largest?
Arthropoda.
Good. So the second largest is mollusca. This is the second largest animal phylum. Mollusks are terrestrial or aquatic, and they also have an organ system level of organization. So can I have two examples of phylums which have organ system level of organization?
Annelida and Arthropoda.
Very good. Annelids and arthropods. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, coelomate animals. The body is covered by a calcareous shell. Calcareous shell, मतलब
Made up of calcium.
Yes.
Calcium carbonate.
हाँ बेटा, कैल्शियम और कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट.
Calcium carbonate.
Calcium carbonate.
पक्का पक्का. कैल्शियम और कैल्शियम. Decide one.
Ma'am, calcium carbonate.
Carbonate.
Okay. Why did you guess it as calcium carbonate? Why not calcium? One of you said calcium also, then you people changed. Calcareous shells. Calcium carbonate, you're right, beta. It's calcium carbonate only. So, the body is covered by calcareous shell. It is unsegmented. We will not be able to see any segments over here. There is no metamerism found over here. It is entirely unsegmented. There is a distinct means very clear. A very clear head, a muscular foot, and a visceral hump. Head everybody knows, foot everybody knows. What is this visceral hump? अच्छा, what is a hump? पहले ये बताइए. What is a hump, बेटा? Hump कहाँ पे देखा है, कहीं सुना है? Hump.
Camel.
Oh, very good, very good. So this is a visceral hump, okay? Most of the digestive, reproductive, excretory, respiratory system, they are all present in one particular area. Okay, तो ये bulk हो जाता है of all the organs. So एक hump-like structure बन जाता है. This hump is what we call as the visceral hump. What is it called as? Visceral hump.
Side now in class 11. He is asking to पूरा course आना UT.
Post हो गया syllabus तो. 10 तो हमारे यूटीज नहीं होंगे, हमारे एनुअल एग्जाम्स होंगे. ही इज अ न्यू एडमिशन.
Yes ma'am, new admission this year only.
योर नेम? इंद्रिश इज नॉट अ न्यू एडमिशन. इनको तो बहुत मंथ पहले ज्वाइन कर लिया था. आई थिंक
It's 2020 admission.
हाँ 2020. यू हैड सम मेडिकल इश्यूज ना इंद्रिश? हाँ. If you can wait for 10 minutes, I'm about to finish my class. I'll come and meet
10
you.
minutes wait करो,
Just
मैम से discuss करो.
Indresh, just wait for 10 minutes at the reception. हाँ, I'll just finish my class and come to you. Okay? Just give me 10 minutes. So, we were talking about what, beta? They were bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, coelomate animals. The body is covered by calcareous shell. You had just told me calcareous shell means the shell is made up of?
Calcium carbonate.
Calcium carbonate. I was talking about the visceral hump. Hump का मतलब जो चीज थोड़ी सी swollen है, थोड़ा सा ऊपर उठा हुआ पार्ट, that is what we call as a hump. चलिए इसमें पहचानते हैं. आप मुझे बताइएगा which is a hump. Is this a hump? This is a
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Is this a hump?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
This is not the hump. This is the head. This is the head. This is the muscular foot. And ये वाला जो swollen part है, ये बड़ा सा onion जैसा दिख रहा है बेटा, ये हमारा visceral hump है. So चलिए फिर से identify करते हैं 3 body parts. What is this top part called as?
Head.
Head. सबसे नीचे चलते हैं. This one. This is what?
Muscular foot.
Muscular foot. And ये बीच का जो swollen part है ये वाला, this is your visceral hump. A soft and spongy layer of skin forms a mantle over the visceral hump. Mantle means covering. देखो बेटा ये visceral hump के ऊपर we have a covering also. Soft and spongy layer. The space between the hump and the mantle is called the mantle cavity. The space between the hump and the mantle. Hump is surrounded by a covering which is known as the mantle. And the space between the hump and the mantle is called mantle cavity, in which feather-like gills are present. ये देखो, ये दिख रहे हैं आपको छोटे-छोटे ये वाले? These feather-like gills. So many shapes of gills we have. They have respiratory and excretory functions. The anterior head region has sensory tentacles. This is the head region, anterior head region. It has got sensory tentacles. The mouth contains a file-like rasping organ for feeding, which is called radula. Okay? Mouth contains a feeding organ. That feeding organ is called radula. चलो यहाँ पे identify करने की कोशिश करते हैं हम लोग. Okay? I'm reading out some words. One is your hump. Then I want you to identify the sensory tentacles. Are these the sensory tentacles?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
What about these? These ones?
Yes, ma'am. These are sensory tentacles.
These are the sensory tentacles. And if you see ये ऊपर माउथ वाला जो पार्ट है, the feeding organ, ये वाला जो दिख रहा है white color का dot दिख रहा है आपको, radula. This is the feeding organ. So which is the largest phylum when we talk about numbers in animal classification?
Arthropods.
Arthropods. Second largest is what, beta?
Mollusca.
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 If I talk about the special features of mollusk, the most important feature is that the body is covered with a shell. The body is covered with a shell. The body is not segmented. It can be differentiated into head, muscular, foot, and visceral, hump, and they have sensory tentacles. You can see this over here. Can you guess the function of these sensory tentacles? Function of sensory tentacles. Just now we had talked about them. I know it's very cold now. You people not feeling like speaking only. Most of you must be sitting in your bed in the quilt and studying. Am I right or wrong? Such bolo beta, such beta. Tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand. It's okay. Absolutely okay. कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. At least you are attending. You can sit in the bed with your quilts. Absolutely fine. It's fine, beta. It's very cold. Thankfully, there is no network problem in the second period. So we have a soft and spongy layer. There's a hump, and we have the mouth feeding organ, which is known as. Please look at this word, radula.
Radula.
What is the most important feature जो आप हमेशा याद रखेंगे about arthropods?
They have shells.
Body is covered by a
Calcareous shell. अब आगे नहीं पढ़ेंगे. Let me go back to what I've done today. Let me revise. बहुत सारे phylums हो गए हैं. We started from. Let me revise the names first. Which was the first phylum we did?
Platyhelminthes.
Then I'll explain this table to you. नहीं, शुरू से करते हैं बेटा. The first phylum we did was Porifera, right? Second was
Coelenterata.
Coelenterata. I'm showing you, then I will hide, and then you will name. First one, Porifera, Coelenterata, PC square, Ctenophora. We are making a formula. PC square, Ctenophora. PC square P. Which is the next one you have? Platyhelminthes. I would suggest कि इसी sequence में learn करिए because level of organization increase होता रहता है. Then we've got Aschelminthus. Fifth one, sixth is your Annelida. Seventh one was Arthropoda, and the eighth is Mollusca. Chaliye, tell me, let's count. Who will tell me all the 8 phylums in the sequence? Nobody? Okay, let's do it with me if you're not feeling confident. Porifera. Next, you tell.
Coelenterata.
Very good. Phylum, Porifera. Then we'll reverse. What I'm speaking, you speak, and what you are speaking, I'll speak. I said Porifera, you said Coelenterata. The third is Ctenophora.
Platyhelminthes.
Okay. Now it is my turn. You've given your answers. Aschelminthus. Next.
Annelida.
Annelids.
Arthropods.
Mollusca.
Mollusks.
Mollusca.
Come on. Who will name all the 8 phylums now? We've done all 8 of them. Porifera.
Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca.
How many she's done?
Yes, ma'am. All.
All are done? Okay. What is the most important feature of arthropods?
Largest phylum.
They are the largest ones, and when we talk about structure, then they have that calcareous shells. What is the common name of Hirudinaria?
Blood-sucking leech.
Yes.
Blood-sucking leech.
I generally talked about a leech when in common language we say leech shows metamerism because there's a repetition of organs. If we talk about repetition of organs, then we talked about how many brains?
32.
32.
So we have these lateral appendages which help in swimming in nerees. What were they called as?
Parapodia.
Parapodia.
What is the difference between flatworms and roundworms? Structurally, I'm asking about structurally that why are they called flatworms and why are they called as roundworms?
Ma'am, flatworms are dorsiventrally flattened, while roundworms are not flattened.
Yes.
Flatworms
They're somewhat circular, so we call them as roundworms, and they are dorsoventrally flat, so we call them as okay. We talked about a special modification of lungs, where a lung has about 100 membranes. Gills, where it has about 100 membranes. What are such gills known as?
Book gills.
gills.
Book gills. And we also talked about a modification of lungs where there are stacks of plates. Stacks, ढेर लगा देना एक के ऊपर एक. So we have stacks of plates. Such kind of lungs are known as
Book lungs.
So we talked about book gills. We also talked about book lungs. Okay. Ascalmenthus and Platyhelminthes. We got the difference between both of them very quickly. Now, we talked about flame cells. Flame cells are a characteristic feature of which phylum?
Platyhelminthes.
Helminthes.
What are the two main functions of this flame cells?
Osmoregulation.
Osmoregulation and excretion.
Very good. Okay, osmoregulation and excretion is the main function. Let's talk about ctenophoras. They're commonly called as
Sea walnuts.
sea walnuts. Okay, or we also have a very nice name, that is comb
Jellies.
Two very important features of ctenophoras. Those 8 line-like
8 external rows and bioluminescence.
bioluminescence and the presence of comb plates. How many comb plates?
8.
8. So presence of comb plates and bioluminescence is a characteristic feature of ctenophoras. Now we come to this one. Let's see them. These are again very interesting ones. Okay. When we talked about single gastrovascular opening, I'm talking about coelentrates, of course. This word I wanted to revise with you. Central gastrovascular cavity with a single opening mouth. What was it known as? With single opening mouth.
Hypostome.
Hypostome. What is the difference between polyp and medusa? Identify this first one. Tell me this one. Is it polyp or is it medusa?
It is Medusa.
Medusa.
Why do
Medusa.
why you think it is medusa?
Umbrella shaped.
Umbrella shape.
Umbrella shape. They are motile or they are sessile?
Motile.
Motile.
Tile.
Good. Charlie, let's see this one. This is polyp or medusa?
Polyp.
Polyp.
Polyp. Are they sessile or they are motile?
Sessile.
They are sessile. If you see, this is the hard substratum to which they attach themselves. So we've got two different forms, polyps and medusas for coelentrates. Let's move on to poriferas, the simplest ones, poriferas. Why are they called poriferas?
They have pores on their body.
Yes, they have pores on their body. That is why they're called as poriferas. The first ones we did were porifera. These are the 8 phylums that we have done. Now, we have minute pores through which water enters the body. What were these pores called as?
Ostia.
Very good. Known as ostia. Good, good. The sexes are not separate. So what is the term we use?
Hermaphrodite.
Hermaphrodite.
They are hermaphrodites. Fertilization is internal. It has many dash stages. Which stages?
Larval stages.
Okay. The water enters through ostia and it leaves through another pore. What was that pore known as?
Osculum.
Osculum.
Very good. They are known as osculum. So it enters through ostia and it leaves through osculum. This is what main thing we did about porifera. Coelenterata we've already revised. The main difference was what beta? We had two varieties, polyps and medusas. Ctenophora bioluminescence. Platyhelminthes, hooks and suckers are present. We've done about tapeworm and liver fluke. Ascalminthus, they're roundworms, they're dioecious. Annelid, the most important property is metamerism. And parapodia, present in which variety of annelids? Parapodias?
Aquatic.
Good. And the word arthropoda comes from the word arthro and poda. Arthro means?
Joint.
Joint.
Okay. And poda means?
Appendages.
Appendages. So they have joint appendages. The largest phylum in terms of number is which one?
Arthropoda.
Arthropoda.
Arthropoda. Now, if you see this table, this is kingdom Animalia. There are different levels of organization. First is the cellular level, and tissue organ system level have been put together. Cellular level, we have only one, that is porifera. Okay, cellular level, there is only one, that is porifera. This table will really help you out. And if I talk about tissue organ system level and symmetry, then radial symmetry, we have where? Coelenterata, Ctenophora, C squares. Both of them over here, you have radial symmetry. All others, you're going to have bilateral symmetry over here. However, if the similarity is bilateral symmetry, but they may be acoelomates or pseudocoelomates or coelomates. So this is the easiest way of classifying. Cellular level and higher level. Cellular level, it is porifera only. Then higher level, we can further divide them in basis of radial and bilateral symmetry. Radial, we've got coelentrates and ctenophoras. C square, C, you can remove them. Bilateral, again divide them into three: acoelomates, pseudocoelomates, and coelomates. Acoelomates, platyhelminthes. Pseudocoelomates, ascalminthus, and rest all of them, you can put them in the category of coelomates. So, as far as level of organization, symmetry, coelom is present, the simple table will help you to identify. We have started dividing the level of organization into only two levels. The simplest level is the cellular level. Which phylum will you include in the cellular level?
Porifera.
Porifera.
If I talk about the symmetry, then radial symmetry, I can put two phylums. Which are the two phylums?
Coelenterata and Ctenophora.
Coelenterata and Ctenophora.
In bilateral symmetry, the acoelomates, which is the phylum?
Platyhelminthes.
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 The class is about to get over. Identify quickly which phylum is this. Please see the pictures. Sycon, Spongia.
Porifera.
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 Let me move on to this. This is which phylum?
Coelenterata.
Coelenterata.
This one is polyp or medusa?
Coelent-
Polyp.
Polyp.
This one is polyp or medusa?
Medusa.
Perfect. Now please identify this.
Ctenophora.
Ctenophora. What are these two structures hanging, thread-like structures?
Flagella.
Flagella.
Keep identifying.
Flagella.
Which one is this? This is
Platyhelminthes.
okay, platyhelminthes, but then this is your tapeworm. And this is which one?